So Shakur Stevenson just said that he thinks that Tank Davis just cherry picks all of his opponents. How do we feel about that, guys? I don't know if I agree with that, but part of me does agree with that, but not in totality. I do think that Tank is fighting, at least to a certain extent, credible opponents. It's just not that, Kodak opponent that we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for Tank to fight a guy like Shakur Stevenson or a guy like Devin Teofimo, and obviously Devin had that rough performance, but I don't know if Tank's cherry picking. I think the negotiations just make it a very difficult process to actually get the fight going and negotiated properly, because Tank's in a position where he's a draw, but a lot of fighters, guys like Devin, guys like Teofimo, they're not going to want to be the B side, because if Tank is bringing all the money, he deserves an argument for the A side. But at the same time, if a guy's a champion, a guy like Teo's a champion, then he deserves to be the A side as well. Like they both have arguments to be the A side, because no matter what you guys say, Tank has that reputation where people are coming specifically just to see him because he produces knockouts. And we know that time and time again, we're seeing Tank get these guys out of there and do it easily. So Tank deserves a lot of credit, and Shakur is saying that he's cherry picking his fighters. He knows that he's gonna look good against Frank Martin, is what he was saying, because he was asked, is Frank Martin an elite level fighter? And Shakur said no. And I think Frank Martin's elite to a certain level. Do I think he beats Tank? I don't think he beats Tank, but Shakur was kind of saying that Tank knows that he's going to look good against his opponents, and he knows he's going to look good against Frank Martin because they've been in the ring together, and Tank kind of knows what he's going to do to him. So, no matter what happened in that sparring, they obviously did spar a few years ago, and, Frank Martin gave Tank props that he is the real deal when it comes to power, one of the hardest hitters he's ever faced. But it's a different scenario when those, the headgear comes off and you're fighting with lighter gloves. It's going to be a different fight. It's all about, Frank Martin's game plan. Is he going to be intelligent? Is he going to be able to keep Tank off of him and gain that respect? Because no fighter has really been able to do that. I'd say Isaac Cruz was able to kind of get respect from Tank, but also Tank had an injury going into that fight. So, you can't take away too much from that outcome. But I'm curious to see what happens next. Assuming that Tank does get past Frank Martin, I think it is a competitive fight early on, but I think that, Frank is gonna slowly fade, as most of Tank's opponents do. I just think that Tank's in a different mode right now. He even said it himself. He's gone through so much outside of the ring that it's got to come out. He's got to release that tension somehow, release all that anger and frustration that's built up, that built up aggression. And he said he's going to take it out on Frank Martin. It's not Frank Martin personally. It's just, everything he's gone through. Somebody's got to deal with all the frustration that Tank's been feeling. They have to fall victim to it. And that victim is going to end up being Frank Martin. And Frank Martin's not going in there to lay down. We all know that. Frank has had a great fight. He fought Michel Rivera, and we all thought that was going to be a competitive fight, but it wasn't. Frank Martin showed that he's on another level. He's very fast, faster than a lot of your average fighters. The footwork is good. The power, he has some power, and the speed is good. He can time you. So Frank is a great fighter. Can he pull off a win against Tank? It's tough for me to say. Obviously, everybody has a chance. Could I see Frank somehow pulling off a decision? I could see that. I don't think he hurts Tank, just because I haven't seen Tank really hurt. The only time I've really seen Tank get tagged, pretty clean was against like Mario Barrios and I would say Leo Santa Cruz and maybe Isaac Cruz, but not many guys have really hurt him. Like those are more so, the fighters that have landed clean shots on Tank. No one's really buzzed him, in my opinion. I've never really seen Tank rock like that. I wouldn't say Ryan Garcia's rocked Tank before, landed clean shots on him, but never really rocked him. So let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys think, because I'm always reading the comments, but I don't know if, I don't want to say that Tank's cherry picking, because at the end of the day, pros are pros. And it's not easy to be any, pro level fighter in general, because there are a lot of guys that aren't well known in the sport of boxing right now. They're prospects, they're still up and coming. Some guys are veterans, but they haven't gotten that chance to display their skills. And they could probably give Tank a run for their money, but Tank is fighting guys that, within the sport of boxing, people know them. So I don't think we can completely write off Tank's resume, and I'll give him credit for that, but I'm going to play both sides here because we also have to, you know, wait for that really credible opposition. He's fighting credible opposition, but I hold Tank to such a high standard that I'm waiting for those really credible names, guys like Shakur, guys like Teofimo Lopez, and if he wants to stay at 35, the fights for Tank are Shakur Stevenson. Obviously, he's fighting Frank Martin, but the fights for Tank at 35 are Shakur Stevenson and Lomachenko. Those are the only two fights that Tank's going to get credit for at 35. Otherwise, he might as well just go to 40 and fight the likes of guys like Teofimo, try to get a guy like Devin Haney. Those are other big fights that Tank could make happen. He could fight Regis Prograis at 140. They're good fights for Tank, but ultimately, I think Lomachenko, Shakur, Devin is a good fight. He needs to make those big fights happen and maybe fight Ryan Garcia in a rematch. And you know, he said that he's open to fighting Ryan at like 143 pounds, but he can only gain like 10 pounds, 10 to 15 pounds. So I don't know if Ryan Garcia would be willing to do that because Ryan obviously he's going through a lot right now. We're going to see what happens when that May 22nd B sample result comes back. Even Ryan Garcia said it himself. He expects it to come back positive because, you know, you rarely see an A sample come back positive for a PED and then the B sample comes back negative. It's just not a very common case. Obviously, nothing's impossible. The way it works with urine, you know, these VADA tests, the way it works is you know, you have to pee in the cup and they split the samples for A and B. So you have to hit a certain, you know, benchmark line to have that, you know, that minimum. And once if it's in the A sample, it should also be in the B sample. So I think that's what Ryan Garcia is alluding to. So we'll see what happens, how that situation unravels and unfolds. But yeah, back to big fights for Tank. It just goes back to, you know, Lomachenko and Shakur, because at 35, you know, I think Keyshawn Davis is a credible opponent at 35, but ultimately he's not known enough. So I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze for Tank. You know, it's a pretty high risk fight for low reward. I would still favor Tank at this point in Keyshawn's career, as good as he is. He's a very exciting fighter. He has a lot of offensive skills. He gets hit a little bit too much for my liking, but I still one of my favorite fighters at 35. But I just don't think it's going to be worth it for Tank. I don't think Tank gets paid enough against Keyshawn Davis, at least not right now. I think, you know, he should definitely go for that Shakur fight, in my opinion. I think that's the hottest fight at 35 when it comes to getting credit, because both of these guys are in their primes. Tank's approaching 30, he's 29 years old, and he's still missing that Kodak win. I would argue a guy like Ryan Garcia, who's 26, has gotten that over Devin Haney, but, you know, just obviously Tank has beaten Ryan, and I'm not going to say that the rehydration clause would have changed the outcome. If there was no rehydration clause, that Ryan would have won. I'm just saying that it did have an impact on the fight, at least in some way, you know, in favor of Tank. I just don't like the rehydration clauses. I know that it's a thing. It's that Mayweather blueprint. I'm just not a big fan of it. I think, you know, if you make the weight, you can make the weight, and then you should be able to rehydrate as you please. There should be no cap on it. So for a guy like Ryan Garcia, if he's gonna make weight, you know, they should just make that weight happen, and then obviously make the fight happen the next day, no matter what these guys are weighing in on the next day. Everybody rehydrates differently, and it's just not fair, because some people just naturally put on weight faster or more easily than others do, and that's just the way it is. But I'm really excited to see, you know, Tank back in the ring, obviously against Frank Martin on June 15th with David Benavidez as the co-main event. That's going to be a good, you know, PBC prime fight, so I'm going to be tuned in for that one. It's going to be an interesting one. You know, boxing's in a good place right now, where we're getting a lot of big fights. A lot of the superstars are really starting to show out and, you know, make these big fights happen. So hopefully Tank gets that moment. Not that he didn't make that big fight with Ryan Garcia. I'm just waiting. You guys know what I mean. Like, I just don't want to see any, you know, stipulations in the contract that, you know, a rehydration clause, a catch weight. I just want to see Tank fight at a weight class and, you know, let his opponent rehydrate however they please, and he still gets the job done against a credible opponent. So Lomachenko, Shakur, those are the two fighters that I need to see Tank with, you know, inside that ring. you know, at 35, especially if he doesn't go up to 40. So let me know in the comments, do you guys think Tank is cherry picking his opponents? I don't think so. I just think everyone's just getting a little impatient with Tank. They want to see him fight a big name. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.
That's going to do it for another Nads Fight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.